Good morning. Welcome to the Better Business Workshop. Today we're asking the question, what's holding you back? You know, a lot of us have a lot of self-talk, and it's very normal for that, and it's very natural in our human behavior to make assumptions about the future. We kind of talk ourselves into things that stop ourselves from doing things. So I'm joined by my colleague today, Gareth Hughes, and we're asking the question, what's holding us back? Good morning, Gareth. How are you today? It's brilliant to see you.
I'm good, thank you. I'm excited about this topic because I think as coaches, we kind of see this every day, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. All the time, all day, every day. You know, and it manifests with people saying things like, I can't do that, right? So why do people stay where they are, Gareth?
So there's lots of reasons, but I think people look at other successful people and say, oh, but they had it really easy, or, you know, they don't have the same fear that I do, or they don't have this roadblock or that roadblock, you know, insert really bad excuse, you know, into the end of that sentence, right? So, but they do. Everybody has the same, right? But what successful people do is turn it around and say, well, actually, I'm more scared of staying where I am, right? And the fear of staying where they are is actually worse. It outweighs the fear of failure or moving forward or that kind of stuff, right? Isn't there a famous Mark Twain quote? We haven't done any quotes for a few, Mark, so I thought I'd twist on it. I think Mark Twain says something like, and comment below if I get this wrong, but I've had a lot of worries in my life, most of which have never happened, right? And that's so true. Yeah, it's so true. We have, you know, nothing is ever as bad as we think it's going to be, right? It always, if I think back to any situation I've faced in my life, you know, you always expect the worst. You always times it by 100 in your head, and it's never ever that bad. I've always walked away from it, right? Which is a good start. And there's false expectations appearing real. So those worries that go around your head, they never manifest it themselves, but in your head, it seems so real. It seems so plausible that could happen. That's, I think, a lot of the reason why people stay where they are.
And often, isn't it funny, you know, how often we kind of tell ourselves that something's going to be really bad, and very often when we actually kind of get around to doing something, it's never as bad as we thought it was going to be. And that's down to this phrase here, right? False expectations appearing real. It's that self-talk, and we kind of talk ourselves out of doing things. And you're absolutely right, Gareth.
Yeah.
You know, successful people are more likely to kind of embrace the unknown and just kind of get on with it anyway. What was it? Jeffers. I always get the name wrong. Is it Francis Jeffers or Susan Jeffers who wrote the book Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I was once talking to a business owner, and I said something like, "Oh, you know, how much profit do you make?" And I think they said, "Oh, you don't want to make a profit." And I went, "Why is that?" And he went, "Well, you'll have to pay tax on it." And I'm there going, "Yeah, like thinking the tax you have to, like, you can switch something round to anything positive. Like paying tax keeps you in the system, right? Keeps you in the system that allows you to earn more money. It's a good thing. It contributes to society. But I don't know where we get this idea that paying tax is bad in the UK. But you know, if we didn't pay tax, what's the alternative? You know, a dictatorship. You know, that's the kind of thing that we're facing. So, but people build this up in their head, and it's completely false. It's completely made up. And, you know, we see it every day. And I think we were talking yesterday about, oh, you know, that won't work in my industry, or that won't work in my business, or my business is unique, right? You and I work across a lot of businesses and a lot of industries. And I'm sorry to say this to anyone watching, but your business isn't unique. Your industry isn't unique, right? It's, you know, there's a chassis that goes into every business. You know, but we've told ourselves this lie, basically.
Yeah, we got to build up these barriers. So let's have a look at the next slide then, and kind of go into that in a bit more detail, because those barriers that we build up, we call limiting beliefs, right? The blind spots, if you like. So, what do we mean by blind spots? Ask yourself, what assumptions am I making? What assumptions do I make about the future that are holding me back, as it says there? So tell us a bit about blind spots, Gareth, and limiting beliefs.
Yeah, and as the name suggests, it's stuff that you can't see or you can't predict. And there was a great book a few years ago called The Black Swan Theory, and it basically came out of this idea that in the UK, swans wear white. Swans are white because that's what swans are, right? They're white. Why would anybody ever tell that? And then they went. They went halfway around the world. I think it was to Australia, discovered Australia, and they have black swans, right? And it blew people's minds, right? Because you can't comprehend a black swan because swans are white, right? And I just think there's an idea of giving yourself as much experience as possible, as much knowledge as possible, so that those black swan events are limited to a very few. You can't eradicate them all, but you can limit them to a negligible risk. Okay.
Yeah.
And the other thing with this is, our self-talk is so important to us. Our self-talk often dictates our actions, and we have to make sure that is on point. We have to make sure that we live and we talk to ourselves in a way that isn't going to hold us back, that isn't going to produce these limiting beliefs. The example I mentioned a second ago, you don't want to make a profit, you'll pay more tax. Great. Let's pay tax. I don't understand, right? But for me, that's incomprehensible that somebody would think like that, right? And that assumption, that self-talk, that tax was bad for that individual, has held him back for years. 20 years he was in business, I'm pretty sure, if I remember rightly. Not made a profit in a year. I mean, that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. So other things that we hear every day, self-talk, it always starts with "I can't do that," or an excuse around. But it's simple things. Simple things like I don't know how to do marketing. I don't know how to sell. I hear things like, telesales won't work in my business. Actually, very often things like that are excuses. It's fear of the phone. People are frightened of picking up the phone because they're fear of the rejection, right? So it holds them back from doing things because they're making excuses out of fear, and not because they're not willing to go and try things, and they make excuses for not doing that. So that's the self-sabotage right now.
Yeah, and where's the evidence that telesales doesn't work, right? Where's the data, right? Because I've got thousands of pieces of data that says telesales does work. So where's the evidence that it doesn't work, right? And it's okay. It's no, nobody went to school for marketing or sales or anything like that, right? Or how to run a business. Nobody went to school, and that's okay. You don't need to, as a business owner, you don't need to be an expert in marketing, in sales, in finance. That's why you have an accountant, right? But this is the thing that most business owners don't get, is they go, well, I don't need to be an expert in finance because I've got my accountant. So they slopey shoulders, they abdicate responsibility for that, right? Now, you don't need to be an expert in it, but you need to know enough to ask the right question. Okay.
Correct.
Otherwise, you're going to go to a marketing agency. You're not going to ask the right question. They're going to spin you a dip, and you're going to be wasting your money, right? And I see that day in, day out. So you don't need to be an expert, but you do need to ask the right question.
There's a great quote from famous strategist Edwards Deming. He said, "In God we trust, and for everybody else, show me data." so it's kind of back to these assumptions, right? Yeah, but the most important thing, is to kind of recognize the limiting of belief and then do something, right? The biggest risk, there used to be a roller banner behind me that used to say that, from Brad Sugars, our founder, that used to say the biggest risk you can take is to do nothing. And he's absolutely right. You know, when you're kind of self-sabotaging, when you have limiting beliefs, it's about having somebody like a coach who can kind of call you out and show you the actions that you need to take and do something, because doing something is better than nothing, right? And that's the most important.
And if somebody's watching this and they know someone who is doing this right now, if they know a business owner, tag them in and make them watch this video, and make sure we get the message across to them.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. Thank you, Gareth. Look, it's been a great session. If you want to jump on a strategy session, if you know somebody that is not taking action or they're putting something off, get them booked into a strategy session with Gareth and I. It's totally complimentary. You can go to one of the websites, try the Milton Keynes one, for instance, miltonkeynes.actioncoach.co.uk, and right there in the banner, you can book a complimentary 30-minute strategy session, or you can come and join us over in one of our VIP groups on LinkedIn or on Facebook. We'll put the link to that in the comments below this post as soon as we've finished this live. But go and have a look for the Better Business Workshop. Gareth, it's been absolutely brilliant to see you. We'll be back on Friday. Thank you so much. Wishing you a fantastic day.
Great to see you, Mark.
See you on Friday.